Apple just released iOS 12.1.3 for the iPhone and iPad. I'm going to show you what's new and also give you some reasons why you should install it and some reasons why you shouldn't install it. I'm Josh Smith with Gotta Be Mobile. Let's take a closer look at the iOS 12.1.3 update. While the iOS 12.1.3 update is pretty small and it's mainly focused on bug fixes and security updates, it could have a big impact on your device. Some of you should go ahead and install it right now, especially if you're having a lot of problems on iOS 12 or iOS 12.1.2, but for other people, it may make more sense to wait a few days or even a few weeks before you install the latest update. Even though it's been in beta for a while, we've been testing it, Apple's been testing it, developers have been testing it. It's going to come out and there are likely going to be some issues, and that's one of the reasons why you need to think before you install iOS 12.1.3. Let's take a closer look at all those reasons you should and should not install iOS 12.1.3 today. Before we dive into the reasons to install iOS 12.1.3, here's a look at 4 reasons that you shouldn't install iOS 12.1.3 yet. First of all, if you're not prepared, if you haven't backed up your device, if you haven't learned how your device works on iOS 12.1.3, and if you haven't done any research on this, it's a good reason not to install this update. It might take you an hour, it might take you 15 minutes, or it might take you a couple days. Learn what you need to know about this update. There's links in the description below that can help you, and then go ahead and make sure your device is fully backed up. It's very rare that something's going to go wrong with a small update like this, but it still happens, and if you don't have an iCloud update or if you haven't plugged into your computer and done a backup in iTunes, you're going to be out of luck if you have a problem. It's so much easier to solve a problem with an iPhone update or an iPad update when you have that backup. So go ahead and make sure you have that backup, that you've done your research, and that you're ready to go before you install iOS 12.1.3. Do you hate problems? If so, you may want to hold off. Now, I know I'm going to tell you that if you have problems, you should install this update. Well, that's a double-edged sword because each update typically brings a few more problems with it. And so instead of going on day one, even if you're having problems, you may want to wait just a day or two, let a few other people be the first people to install this update, and with that, they're going to discover any problems. If there's a major problem, Apple could pull the update. If it's a small problem, someone might already find a fix, and then you're going to be able to install without getting the first-hand experience of all those problems. So if you don't like problems, hold off just a little bit before you install this update. Alright, if you're one of the few people out there still holding on for an iOS 12.1.3 jailbreak or an iOS 12 jailbreak at all, don't install this update. A lot of times we see cutoffs with small point updates where there's a security fix that basically blocks access. We've seen some proof of concept for iOS 12 jailbreaks. We haven't seen a public one yet. It's unclear when or if that will come. If you're already jailbroken on an iOS 11 device, don't update just to get some of these new features and think you're going to be able to jailbreak. So if you're still holding out for a jailbreak, keep holding out. Otherwise, if you upgrade, you're going to lose that jailbreak ability, and we're not sure how long you'll lose it for. This reason not to install iOS 12.1.3 may sound a little bit over the top, but if you're traveling right now, whether that's for work or vacation, don't install this update. It's a small update, it shouldn't take that much time, but if something does go wrong, you're gonna be out of luck and you're not gonna be near your power, you're not gonna be near your backups, you're not gonna be in your office or at your home where you can easily fix this issue. And it's going to be harder possibly to find an Apple store if you need that assistance. So just wait until you get home. There's nothing in this update that is going to make or break your trip. And we've had issues where people we know have been going on a trip and they've installed a macOS update or an iOS update, and the phone or the Mac just freaks out and it ruins the entire trip. Even if they can try and put it out of their mind, they're worried about their device or they're not able to do everything they wanted to do. Hold on before you install this update if you're traveling or if you're about to leave. It's better to wait and install this when you get back. All right, now that we've taken a look at the reasons not to install iOS 12.1.3, here are the reasons that you should install this update today. Perhaps the biggest reason to install iOS 12.1.3 right now is for security. These small updates focus on bug fixes and security, and while you might not think about the security of your device every day, these bug fix updates will protect your device from websites that try and do things on your device and just a wide variety of other security issues, and all you have to do is install the update. So especially if you've held off and you're on iOS 12 or iOS 12.1, now's a good time for a lot of people to go ahead and install that update and get the latest security fixes. And if you install this now, you're gonna get a cumulative update, so you're gonna get all those security fixes that came in 12.1.1 and 12.1.2. Another reason to install iOS 12.1.3 is if you're using Apple's new battery case for the iPhone XS, XS Max, XR, and especially if you're going to put the XS case on the 10, because we've seen some issues where your iOS version matters to how well that case works. So if you're planning to use that case, it's a good idea to update and take advantage of all of those features. Are you dealing with a lot of problems on your iPhone or iPad? If so, you're probably going to want to install iOS 12.1.3 right now. There are a few known bug fixes, including a bug fix for iPad Pro sound issues with third-party apps. So if you're experiencing anything like that, go ahead and install it right now. And there are a variety of other smaller fixes, including some for the iPhone and fixes that aren't listed in the official documentation, but that usually slide in and improve your device experience. If you're having issues on an older version of iOS, it's a good idea to install this update right now and get the most out of it, because you're still going to be able to roll back if you need to. So one reason to install this update is if you own the iPhone XR, and that's if you haven't installed the latest updates. If you're still on iOS 12 or iOS 12.1, you should install this because it's going to offer you haptic feedback. So there's no 3D touch, but you get a similar type of feature on the XR with iOS 12.1.1, 12.1.2, and it stays with iOS 12.1.3. So if you've skipped some of these smaller updates, now's a good time to install and get the benefit of all of those into one. Another reason you'll want to install this update is for dual SIM support. Now that first rolled out in iOS 12.1.2, which is the update right before this, and it's likely that there are some improvements in the back end to help with the overall experience of using this. And if you skipped and waited on iOS 12.1.2, now's a good time to jump into 12.1.3 and get those new features. Another reason to install this update is if you own an Apple Watch. Now, the iOS 12.1.2 update added ECG support for the Apple Watch 4, which allows you to take an ECG on your wrist, unlock that feature that Apple had been touting since the new Apple Watch came out. That feature is still in iOS 12.1.3, and again, if you skip that update, now's a good time to install it and get that feature, because you're going to need iOS 12.1.2 to download the update that included that support on your Apple Watch. The watchOS 5.1.3 update should be out right around this same time, and that's going to allow you to unlock some other bug fixes and features for your Apple Watch. A lot of these updates focus on bringing smaller features that make a big difference to your daily life, and with 12.1.1 we saw voice over LTE support arrive for Sprint, and that carries over through to 12.1.3. So if you skip this smaller update, now's a good time to install and get the most of that feature. With voice over LTE support on Sprint, you're going to be able to make calls over LTE, that's over the same bands that you use for data, and what that means is higher quality calls. Now the catch to this is Sprint only has voice over LTE support out in certain cities, but it's still a good idea to get that support. So if you're traveling to those cities or live in those cities, you have the best call quality. And speaking as someone who's been using this on other carriers, it does make a huge difference in the call quality. So if you make calls on your phone, this is a major reason to install the latest iOS update. So this one's probably a long shot, because if you like new emojis, you've probably already installed the updates. But with iOS 12.1 and 0.1.1, we've seen a lot of new emojis come to iOS, and to receive those or to send those, you need to be on the latest version. So if you haven't already jumped onto that, now's a good time to jump onto iOS 12.1.3. You're gonna get fixes for any issues that were there with 12.1 and on, and an overall better experience while still getting all those emojis finally available on your iPhone and iPad. Another feature that's really interesting that came out with a previous update and is still included is group FaceTime. So if you like to do group video calls, or you need a better group video call solution for work, this might be what you're looking for. It came with an earlier update, and it's still in iOS 12.1.3, and it's still a reason to install this update, especially if you've been holding out. We know a lot of people have kind of held out from 12.1 or 12.1.1 due to concern of bugs and other issues, and now's a good time to jump in and get the most of those features. If you want to know how much you use your phone, or if you want to set limits on how often your kids can use their phone or their iPad, you'll want to install this update because it includes screen time. Now that rolled out with an earlier version of iOS, and it offers one of the most drilled down ways to figure out what your kids are doing on their device or what you're doing on your device, and to put limits in place so that you or your kids don't overuse their device. You can check out a link down in the description below for a video on more on how to use screen time. Another feature that's in here is the ability to control the depth of field when you're editing a photo that you've taken on the iPhone XS or XS Max. And this rolled out with a previous update. It's still here, and it's still a major reason to install this update, because you're gonna be able to take that picture with the depth of field effect, and then when you edit, you're gonna be able to scroll on that screen and change how much of the background is blurred, and it's really cool. It's a great way to get a better shot. Thanks for joining me to take a look at what's new in iOS 12.1.3 and the reasons you should and shouldn't install this update on your iPhone and iPad. If you found this video useful, please give us a like, leave a comment and let us know if you update on day one or if you wait a few days, and if you wait, why do you wait? And don't forget to subscribe to Gotta Be Mobile. You help us out when you do that, and if you hit that notification bell, you'll get notified when we post new videos. Thanks for watching.